Let's go, Joy Reid. Let's see what she has to say. And we're with a video from Amala. So here we go.
Might just take the top of the leaderboard when it comes to the most ridiculous things that Joy Reid has ever said. And she said a lot of ridiculous things. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe. Today we're going to be talking about Joy Reid, women's rights, and Iran. Why? Because Joy Reid decided to say that America is marginally better when it comes to things like women's rights and oppression when compared to Iran. Yep. You can't make this stuff up. Okay, I'm going to get into the clip here so you guys can hear it for yourselves.
Our regime has secret police. They have secret police.
I mean, I just want to say before she jumps into like the actual thing from Joy Reid, like she's just trolling at this point. She's just trolling for clicks. There's no way she actually believes what's about to come out of her mouth. She has to be trolling for clicks. Has to be. But let's hear what she has to say anyways.
Our regime is oppressing women, taking away abortion rights, taking away women's rights in like 26 states, some states where they're trying to have the death penalty for having an abortion. They also oppress women. They have the highest rate of women who are in STEM careers. We're kicking women out of the military, out of university. We're saying that DEI means women can't be hired for high positions in the sciences. We're marginally better. And we're doing it for Christianity. They're doing it for Islam, right? Yeah. So it's like we don't get told those things because it would take away the kind of American exceptionalism narrative.
Okay, we're not told these kind of things. We don't talk about these kind of things because it would take away the American exceptionalism narrative. Okay, let's get into this. Now, first of all, she basically says we are just as bad as an extreme Islamist-controlled state because...
Now, imagine if she said this in Iran, what would happen to her? Just think about that. That right there tells you the stark difference between the two. She feels very comfortable saying anything she wants on her podcast, on her shows, on all these types of things because she can. She's allowed to have that opinion. Again, I think she's trolling for clicks, but nothing's going to happen to her. In Iran, she says anything like that against the regime. Obviously, we know what happens. They already killed 30,000 of their own people in January before the war started. So that tells you the difference. Anyways, let's go.
The same thing is happening here in the name of Christianity, which is just simply not true. We also have a separation of church and state here in the United States of America. Now, you can argue back and forth as to how broadly that is applied and how finely that is applied to the things we do here in the United States, but we do have a separation of church and state. Iran has the IRGC. Okay, so let's keep moving forward here for just a moment. And let me point out things before we get into Joy Reid's points that are just blatantly obvious to me in this video that show that we have less oppression here in the United States than they do in Iran. Joy Reid probably traveled by herself to do this podcast without the permission of a man, without the chaperoning of a male counterpart. That's one thing. She has a job, an occupation, probably self-employed. That didn't require the permission of a man for her to do any of those things. That's point number two. She's saying all of this without a hijab on. Her hair is uncovered. Who knows what she's wearing underneath? That could probably get policed too by the morality police in Iran. Point number three. And you know, all the things that she says on this podcast, she has legal protection for, and equal legal protection to a man here in the United States. Can the same be said for women in Iran? No, the same cannot be said. And this really reminds me of a clip that I saw of Whoopi Goldberg saying something very similar to what we just heard Joy Reid say, but in relation to Black people, comparing their existence here in the United States with that of the average person in Iran. Let's listen.
And it's slow.
But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that. Let's not do that because
let's not do that. Let's not talk about oppression that people might be facing in other areas of the world that is far worse than my own, because mine is the worst oppression. I take home gold in the Oppression Olympics because my oppression and my Blackness is the most important thing about who I am as a person. And that's essentially what Joy Reid is saying.
Also, I love Amala. She's fantastic. Also, congratulations to her. I think she's pregnant. I think I saw that on her Instagram or somewhere where she's pregnant. I don't know how long, but congratulations. That's amazing. God bless. It's a fucking miracle. My son in 2 days, it's March 17th right now. My son on March 19th will be 6 months old. Fucking incredible. But yeah, no, let's not talk about the real oppression that people getting, like the real oppression in Iran. Like there is no women's rights in Iran. Women have zero rights. And so you think, why are all these people they care so much about humanitarian rights and human rights and women's rights in America and in Gaza, but they don't care about it in Iran, where it's legit happening right in front of our faces and there's something we can do about it, but we shouldn't intervene because it's at the behest of Israel and it helps the Jews. And it's like, you're all hypocritical. And I mean, no, they're not talking exactly about that, but it's the same kind of idea. Like, I'm always the victim and I'm oppressed and those people are not. And it's the same. It's ridiculous. Anyways, here we go. Let's continue with Whoopi Goldberg, I
Female
guess.
oppression is just as bad as anybody else's oppression, and everything we face here in the U.S. is just as bad as what they face in Iran, except I guess she said marginally better. Marginally better. Let's really think about that.
We start with that. We have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing
used to
compared to
just
United.
keep hanging black people. So
It is not even the same.
Let's just also point out how amazing it is that these two women can be in their respective platforms and criticize the country in the way they do, criticize the government in the way they do, without any repercussion. As if you did the same in Iran, guess what would happen? You probably wouldn't be living very long to keep doing that. That's how they handle dissidents in that country.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
Listen, and thank you so much for saying that it is by no means the same thing. And there are a multitude of things you can point to. In order to make this point, you shouldn't have to make this point. This should just be baseline knowledge for the average American citizen that your life is far better here than the life of, say, a woman in Iran, as Joy Reid is trying to negate in her podcast speech. And we even have rankings on things like gender equality and women's rights that Joy Reid could go and look up herself. As far as Iran is concerned, they are placing right now 143rd out of 146 different countries. Where does the US stack up when it comes to things like women's rights? We're in like the 50s and 60s. So even just looking at those numbers alone, you should know that your life is not just marginally better here in the United States. It is.
I think what can be true at the same time is like a couple things. Like, you can want better for the women of America, however you see that playing out, whatever your direction lies for you. Like, you care about these women's issues in America specifically, but you can also at the same time say with an honest truth that it is worse in other places. That doesn't sort of discredit the struggles that women go through in America that you want to increase or get better, or, whatever the case may be. That's a very valuable conversation to have. But to compare it to a country that is basically the worst in the whole world when it comes to women's rights, it sort of defeats your argument and puts you at a place where you shouldn't be taken seriously at all. And I think that's important as well. Anyways.
Worlds, bounds, leaps better than the life that you would be living in Iran. And the very act of you being able to say these things on this podcast with a sweatshirt on that says immigrants make America better, and the fact that you can criticize your government points out the very fact that your life is better here in the United States than it would be in a place like Iran. If Joy Reid was walking the streets of Iran in exactly what she was wearing in this podcast clip, there's a good chance she could be arrested by the morality police. And what happens with her life after that? Who knows? You could look to the lives of Mahsa Amini. Her life was ended because she chose to not wear a hijab or wasn't wearing a hijab properly. You can look to lives like that of Masih Alinejad. She decided to protest the hijab and protest the morality police in Iran. She now resides here in the United States as somebody seeking refuge from the Iranian government, who then sent assassins here to the United States to take her life. Now, luckily, they were unsuccessful, and she's still here in the United
I mean, these women are like actual heroes and actual fighters for women's rights.
States is protesting against the Iranian regime. You can look to women who were blinded for fighting for things like women's rights and women's education in Iran. I mean, the list is just endless and endless. And now, because Joy Reid, I guess, has some sort of social currency, some sort of political currency in this country, I'm going to go back to her statement, and we're going to go through point by point and just get this out of the way before we close out this video.
Our regime has secret police. They have secret police.
How about the morality police? How about the fact that you just had in Iran hundreds of thousands, millions of people protesting in the streets, and the Iranian government killed more than 30,000, some say 40,000 dissidents in the streets of their country? What do you think about that?
Hi, I'm Alex, and we've raised a total of $60 million to help brands rank #1 on ChatGPT.
Google
What do you think about that, Joy?
regime.
Also, the hypocrisy really showed with, I think, women's athletes, especially like Megan Rapinoe, whatever her name is supposed to be like a huge advocate for women's rights. All she talks about is that women deserve to get paid more in soccer, whatever the case may be. And it's like, well, the Iranian soccer team had to take refuge in like Australia for one of their games, and they don't care about that. They don't care about real women suffering and fighting through for equality in a very oppressed nation, but we care about some sort of thing, like virtue signaling in America about, but Megan Rapinoe might be the worst, kind of like Joy Reid. Like they're very similar in how they think and feel, and they're always oppressed and they're always victims, no matter that their life is fucking great. And, so it's hard to take anything they say seriously because they're so delusional about themselves. Anyways, let's continue.
Is oppressing women, taking away abortion rights, taking away women's rights in like 26 states, some states where they're trying to have the death penalty for having an abortion.
Where they're trying to have the death penalty for abortion. How about a death penalty for not wearing a hijab? How about a death penalty for trying to advocate for yourself? How about a death penalty for wearing certain outfits? We saw a girl arrested by the morality police for going out in her undergarments as a form of protest in Iran. And I do wonder how things turned out for that particular young woman. We won't know, because you also don't have transparency from the government. How about a government that turns off your internet and completely censors everything it is that you're able to say in relation to virtually anything, but especially in relation to criticism of that government? What about that, Joy?
They have the highest rate of women who are in STEM.
Doesn't matter, Amala. I am oppressed, and that's all that matters.
Careers. We're kicking women out of the military, out of university. We're saying that DEI means women can't be hired for high positions in the sciences. We're marginally better.
So they have a high rate of women being educated in STEM careers. If you look this up, in Iran, there is a high rate of women actually going to college, graduating college. Then look up how that translates to the workforce, because they don't have equal opportunity in the workforce. So what are really those educations for? Let's ask ourselves that question. And where in the United States have women been kicked out of college?
Yeah.
Please let me know where women have been kicked out of college.
Because actually, the stats show that women are actually doing far better than men now in terms of graduation rates and things of that nature. So that's actually untrue as well.
And kicked out of university simply for being women. Now, I think she's trying to call out this idea that many people in this country are anti-affirmative action, which we took through our government and through policy and legislation all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court decided that things like affirmative action within the university system are in fact unconstitutional, because we are protected by a constitution in this country that is consistently advocating for our rights. And where she says that the anti-DEI individuals in this country are trying to push women out of important occupations, I say those individuals are actually advocating that we are treated with equality within education and within the workforce. The same cannot be said for women in Iran. In fact, Joy Reid, if you wanted to take any complaint through the legal system in this country, you'd have a good shot at doing that. Whereas in Iran, women legally are viewed as what? Being like 50% of what a man has to say in any legal circumstances? And take all of that. Her worries about the secret police here in the United States, her worries about abortion, her worries about education, her worries about the abolition of DEI. In Iran, you have to be worried about being married off at 9 years old. On top of that, I'm sure there is a consistent fear about things like sexual assault and rape for women in Iran. I'll just put up on the screen, if I'm even allowed to on a platform like this, the things that are formerly Ayatollah Khamenei said about young children and being able to sexualize them, and the things that you can do to female prisoners in Iran's system. All that being said, Joy Reid, whether you know it or not, your life is the life that many Iranian women can only dream of.
I mean, talk about the foundations of jihad and Islam. You understand how they want to treat women.
Of the privileges that you wake up with every day simply by virtue of being in this country. Your life is the blueprint. Your life is something that people are using to fuel revolutions in the streets of Iran, where tens of thousands of people are being killed by their government for fighting for the life that you have. And still you sit there with your political slogan t-shirt, which probably would get you shot in the streets of Iran, with your hair out, with your own podcast, with your own life, with your your own chosen partners and all that under the sun, and you say that your life is marginally better than that of the life of a woman living in Iran. And you know what, Joy Reid? Repeat this. Repeat this in the face of an Iranian woman, maybe one that's been burned in an acid attack or blinded by the morality police for fighting for her rights, or maybe one that's been arrested for not wearing a hijab, or maybe one of the girls on the Iranian soccer team whose families are now being disappeared in their home country for what? Because they didn't support the national anthem. They're now being protected by the Australian government and not their own. Say it to one of their faces, because you can talk like this on a podcast surrounded by people who also exist in your echo chamber. But I do have a feeling it's a lot harder to say it to the faces of the people you're actually bringing into this argument, because you can't. And maybe deep down, she doesn't believe what she's saying, and she's just running with the narrative that many woke leftists run with for the sake of their own oppression Olympics. But please, Joy Reid, try it and see what happens. And with that, those are my thoughts on Joy Reid and this statement about Iran in the US and women's rights. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. As always.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect.